Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 2nd Esdras, the 9th chapter, or Salakia, 1st Esdras, the 9th chapter, which will be the last chapter in the book of 1st Esdras. Stop. In the book of Esdras. All right. And in the previous chapter, in the 8th chapter, we read about how, when Ezra went back and he saw the transgression of our people, which even included the sons of the high priest and all of that, he was pretty much in a very stressed out state. Okay, so now we're reading what comes after that. And at this point in time, just for a bit of context, at this point in time, this is as they refer to, those of the captivity, right? Meaning those that returned from the captivity, which we were led into by the Babylonian Empire, okay, under Nebuchadnezzar II. Now, at this very point in time, the temple had already been rebuilt. Okay, that was done during the time of Darius. And now we're reading in First Esdras Chapter 9. At this point, Darius has already reigned and went. His son Xerxes has already reigned and went. And now we're in the reign of Artaxerxes the first, or just Artaxerxes. And so at this point in time, when Ezra goes back to Jerusalem, the temple is already built. However, the Israelites were in heavy transgression. So let's get into it. This is the book of 1st Esdras chapter 9, verse 1. Then Esdras, rising from the court of the temple, went to the chamber of Johanan the son of Eliasib, and remained there, and did eat no meat nor drink water, mourning for the great iniquities of the multitude. And there was a proclamation in all Jewry and Jerusalem to all them that were of the captivity. Now Jewry is let me just type it here. As you can see, it just says Jewish people collectively, right? A Jewish quarter or in a town or a city. So when they say, when you come across that term Jewry, it's not anything, unknown. It's just referring to Israelites. So there was a proclamation made in all Jewry and Jerusalem to all them that were of the captivity. So those that had returned, because not every Israelite returned, that they should be gathered together at Jerusalem, and that whosoever met not there within 2 or 3 days, according as the elders that bear rule appointed, their cattle should be seized to the use of the temple, and himself cast out from them that were of the captivity. And in 3 days were all they of the tribe of Judah and Benjamin gathered together at Jerusalem, and the 20th day of the 9th month. Now, also keep in mind, right, that at this point in time, the kingdom is split, right? The kingdom got split after the reign of King Solomon, but it was during the time of the Assyrians, which right now we're probably somewhere around the 400s and something BC. The Assyrians, when they came and besieged the Samaria and deported the northern kingdom, that was somewhere around the 720s BC. So we're talking about a good 200 to 300 years that has passed in between. Right, so at this point, the bulk of the northern kingdom, or the 10 tribes as they call them, not as they call them, the 10 tribes, had come to the Americas. Though you still had some that not every single northern kingdom, right, was in the Americas. Some were still mingled amongst Judah and Benjamin. Now it doesn't mention Levi here, but the Levites were here as well, because when the kingdom got split, you had the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and the 3 main tribes in the southern kingdom were Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Okay, so though it doesn't mention Levi here, they were here, of course, as we're about to read. All right. And in 3 days were all they of the tribe of Judah and Benjamin gathered together at Jerusalem, the 20th day of the 9th month. And all the multitude sat trembling in the broad court of the temple because of the present foul weather. So they had all, you can imagine them, right? And it had to be a lot of people. and they gathered there. But at this time, it's probably, when the skies are all gloomy, it's cold, it's maybe it had rained or whatever the case is. So it wasn't a comfortable weather. But what do you expect? The Lord wasn't happy with what was going on at the time. So Esdras arose up and said unto them, Ye have transgressed the law in marrying strange wives, thereby to increase the sins of Israel. Now let's make a reference to that. To there's many different parts in the Torah that you can read about that, and one of the accounts here is in Exodus 34 and 14, and on down. And actually, when you read these laws, you'll notice that a good majority of them were to segregate Israel and the other nations. Like, the Lord did not want us to mingle with them for the purpose that, pursuant to Deuteronomy 7 and 6, we're different. We're holy. We have a different way of living. But by intermingling with them, you can get influenced by them and start to go off. And so when you look at a lot of the laws that the Lord told us to keep, especially like some of the things where he said, don't do this, don't do that, a good portion of them were things that these neighboring heathens would do. And so the Lord was explicitly telling us not to do those things, because that was a part of how we would be kept sanctified and holy and separate from the people of the land or the neighboring nations. Now, this is Exodus 34 and 14. For thou shalt worship no other God. For the Lord Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. And today they try to make jealousy seem as though it's a bad thing, and I think there are about two forms, right? You can say some people think of jealousy in the sense of envy, right? You're jealous of someone in the sense of envy, of like you look at them and you kind of want what they have and you want to be like them and that kind of thing. And then there's also the form of jealousy which comes from the general sense, right? If a girl says you're jealous, or you're a jealous kind of guy, it basically means that you don't like to tolerate others trespassing on what's yours, right? Let's put it like that. Okay, but that's actually a feeling that the Lord put upon us for a reason, because when you go into the law, there's actually a law that goes into if the spirit of jealousy comes upon a man concerning his wife, and he starts to suspect that she's maybe not being loyal, guess what? There's actual action you can take about that, where you take them to the elders, and they make this concoction, and the woman has to drink it. And if she did indeed cheat on you or commit adultery, then I think it says her thigh would rot, right? So you can imagine that something would manifest, right? You could see like her skin would like change. Now, I don't think it's the rot in terms of like it'll turn to maggots or anything like that, but there would be some effect that concoction would have upon her that would conclude that yes, indeed she was committing adultery or something like that. But if she drank it and she was just being loyal, then she will be fine. See, so jealousy is not a bad thing. Like today they try to make it seem like, this guy's jealous because he's insecure, or blah, 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 blah. So, going back where we at, Exodus 34 and 14, for thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord Yahweh whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a-whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice. So that's what the Lord was saying. And you can think of it like today. If you were a parent and you have kids, but the neighborhood that you're living in is not the best. It's very dangerous, and there's a lot of negative influence there. Whenever you counsel your children as to whether they're going to school or going to the store or whatever, you always counsel them to avoid the negative influence, right? To not hang out with the bad crowd. And why is that? Because it can lead them to do these bad things, go in the ways you don't want them to go in. So the Lord explicitly warned us, don't hang out with these people, because this is what happens when you do. They're going to influence you to go whoring after their gods. Verse 16, and thou take of their daughters unto thy sons, and their daughters go a whoring after their gods, and make thy sons go a whoring after their gods. Now, one example is what happened with King Solomon. You see? So that's why the Lord said, when he says don't take of their daughters unto thy sons, meaning don't marry these women, because these women, meaning the women of the other nations, right? So we weren't supposed to take them as wives. Now, a concubine is different, right? But we weren't supposed to take them as wives, because the Lord said them going after their gods, they would influence you to do the same. And if you don't believe that, power of influence, go back to the book of Genesis and take a reread what happened with Adam and Eve, because the scriptures tell you that Eve, being the weaker vessel and being deceived, is the one who ended up influencing Adam to go ahead and transgress as well. Okay, so now let's go back to the book of 1 Esdras chapter 9, verse 8. And now by confessing, give glory unto the Lord, power of our fathers, and do his will, and separate yourselves from the heathen of the land and from the strange women. Then cried the whole multitude and said with a loud voice, like as thou hast spoken, so will we do. But forasmuch as the people are many, and it is foul weather, so that we cannot stand without, and this is not a work of a day or two, seeing our sin in these things is spread far. So yes, we agree. We will put away our strange wives and so on. But right now the weather is terrible. It's cold. We're freezing. And doing this is not going to take 1 day or 2 days, right? Because this is a great transgression. And so, verse 12, therefore, let the rulers of the multitude stay, and let all them of our habitations that have strange wives come at the appointed time. So there's a lot of us, right? So why don't you let the heads stay, and then in terms of the actual people in all the various lands, the different areas that they are, appoint them. Maybe those in this area, they will come at this point in time, and then have their matters judged, and sort of do it that way, right? Verse 13, and with them the rulers and judges of every place, till we turn away the wrath of the Lord from us for this matter. Then Jonathan, the son of Aziel, and Ezekias, the son of Theochanes, accordingly took this matter upon them, and Mosalam and Levites and Sabbathias helped them. So you had these men that pretty much took the charge to facilitate and make sure that this process was according as they had said. And they that were of the captivity did according to all these things. And Esdras the priest chose unto him the principal men of their families, all by name. And in the first day of the 10th month, they sat together to examine the matter. So their cause that held strange wives was brought to an end in the first day of the first month. So it took a couple of months, right? The 10th month all the way to the first month, but they ended up straightening out the matter. And of the priests that were come together and had strange wives, there were found of the sons of Joshua, the son of Josedek. Now it says Jesus here because it's I believe some parts, if not all, of the Apocrypha have come from, were translated from Greek, and so and I may be wrong, but that's what I think so far from my memory. So they translate that, right? When you see the name Jesus, it's Joshua, okay, and in the Hebrews Yahushai, but I just rather call him Joshua. So because it's the same name, right? So it says, of the sons of Joshua, the son of Josedek, and his brethren, Matthilas, and Eleazar, and Joribus, and Joadinus, and they gave their hands to put away their wives, and to offer rams, to make reconcilement for their errors. And of the sons of Emer, Ananias, and Zabdius, and Eanus, and Samius, and Hyreel, and Azarias. And of the sons of Phisor, Elionis, Messias, Israel, and Nathaniel, and Osidelis, and Tausus. And of the Levites, Josabad, and Semis, and Colius, who was called Calidas, and Pathias, and Judas, and Jonas. Of the holy singers, Eleazarus, Baccharis. Of the porters, Salamis, and Tolbanes. Of them of Israel, of the sons of Phoros, Hiermus, and Edius, and Melchias, and Milas, and Eleazar, and Asibius, and Banias. Of the sons of Elah, Mathanias, Zacharias, Hierelis, and Hieremoth, and Adius. And of the sons of Zamoth, Eliadus, Elisimus, Athonias, Jerimoth, and Sabbatus, and Sardius. Of the sons of Babai, Johannes, and Ananias, and Josabad, and Amathias, or Amathias. Of the sons of Manai, Olamus, Malmucus, Jeduus, Jazubus, Jasael, and Hieremoth. And of the sons of Adi, Nathis, Musias, Lucanus, and Naidas, and Mathanias, and Sesthel, Balnus, and Manassias, or Manassias. And of the sons of Annas, Elionis, and Asias, and Melchias, and Sabius, and Simon Cosamius. And of the sons of Asum, Altanias, and Matthias, and Benaiah, Eliphalet, Manasses, and Semei. And of the sons of Maanai, Jeremias, Momdis, Omiris, Juel, Mabdai, and Pelias, and Anos, Carabision, and Anisibis, and Mamni-Tanimus, Eliasis, Banus, Elieli, Samis, Selemias, Nathanias. And of the sons of Ozerah, Sesis, Ezriel, Azalis, Samitis, Zambis, Josephus. And see, this is also an example, right, which goes to show you why the scriptures are not just a history book or books on laws, but also on records. Okay, it doesn't just skim, and skip here. It'll give you the actual records of the names, because especially, as part of the ancient world or the customs, having your records, who were the sons of who were the sons of who, was very important, because that was how you would identify of what family or what lineage or what line you were from. Therefore, what were you permitted to do? And of the sons of Ethma, Mazzatias, Zabadias, Edis, Juel, Banaias. All these had taken strange wives, and they put them away with their children. Okay, so I guess there goes the answer to what I was speculating on in the previous chapter. Okay. And the priests and Levites, and they that were of Israel, dwelt in Jerusalem, and in the country, in the first day of the 7th month. So the children of Israel were in their habitations. And the whole multitude came together with one accord into the broad place of the holy porch toward the east. And they spake unto Esdras the priest and reader, that he would bring the law of Moses, that was given of the Lord God of Israel. And remember, when you read in the book of 2nd Esdras, the 14th chapter, now don't get confused. So, yes, you have 1st Esdras and 2nd Esdras, but it's not, those two books are not written in chronological order per se. In the book of 2nd Esdras, it's a more detailed record of the revelations that were given to Esdras while he was in Babylon from the Lord via the angel Uriel. In First Esdras, it's really a record from the point of being taken captive by the Babylonians up to the point of being brought back to rebuild the temple, and finally up to this point in time where we are. Okay, so there may be an account you may be reading in the book of Second Esdras, but that might have already transpired already by the time we're reading in, like, say, First Esdras chapter 9. So just to clarify that there. So when you go to the book of Second Esdras, the 14th chapter, you remember there's an account of, let me actually go back and let's go there real quick just for reference. Second Esdras chapter 14. And I believe it's somewhere around the, here we go. So Second Esdras chapter 14, verse 20. Behold, Lord, I will go as thou hast commanded me. Now this is Esdras. And reprove the people which are present. But they that shall be born afterward, who shall admonish them? Thus the world is set in darkness, and they that dwell therein are without light. For thy law is burnt. Therefore no man knoweth the things that are done of thee, or the work that shall begin. How is the law burnt? Well, same way the temple was burnt, right? When the Babylonians came in, and with the help of the Edomites, because the Edomites were, I think, First Esdras, the 4th chapter. Yeah, First Esdras, the 4th chapter, somewhere around the 40th verse or so, Zerubbabel mentions that, how the Edomites burnt the temple and all of that. And guess what? The laws were in there. So what Ezra was asking the Lord here, verse 22 is, but if I have found grace before thee, send the Holy Spirit into me, and I shall write all that hath been done in the world since the beginning, which were written in thy law, that men may find thy path, and that they which will live in the latter days may live. So now when we go back, now as Esdras is back in Jerusalem, the people asked him to bring forth the law, okay, that they may hear it and they may know and they may follow it. So verse 40, so Esdras the chief priest brought the law unto the whole multitude, from man to woman, and to all the priests. And by the way, when you keep reading in 2nd Esdras 14, Esdras had writers. And so what the Lord did was he put the spirit upon Esdras and strengthened his memory to where he was able to recount all the things that had happened from the beginning all the way to, you know, the point that was sufficient. And you had those writers which wrote and kept writing everything that they heard. And this scene is also depicted in the book of Eli. When you watch the book of Eli and you look at the ending scene, when the main character shaves off his beard and all that stuff, and he's laying there and I think it's like a couch or something, and he starts to recall, he starts to basically, I think he starts with, it was played by Denzel Washington, right? So he starts like in the beginning, and then you had the old man that was typing it all out, and before you knew it, they had typed out the whole, almost like the whole Bible. Where do you think they got that scene from? But interestingly enough, people would deny the validity of the Apocrypha, right? But that account is in the Apocrypha. It's in 2nd Esdras 14. So whoever made that movie, the director or whatnot, clearly must have had knowledge of that. So back in 1st Esdras chapter 9, verse 40. So Esdras, the chief priest, brought the law unto the whole multitude, from man to woman, and to all the priests to hear law in the first day of the 7th month. And he read in the broad court before the holy porch from morning unto midday, before men and women, and the multitude gave heed unto the law. So they came, they took heed, they listened. And Esdras the priest and reader of the law stood up upon a pulpit of wood, which was made for that purpose. So he was basically more on an elevated area where he would be able to see everybody and they would be able to see him. Verse 43, and there stood up by him Mattathias, Samus, Ananias, Azarias, Urias, Ezekias, Belasimus upon the right hand. Now, it says, and upon his left hand stood Phaeldius, Misael, Melchias, Lothasibus, and Nabarius. Now, what's interesting, which I don't know if this is actually the case, and I don't even know if there's a solid way to prove that. But interesting, the names that I find interesting here are Ananias, Azarias, and Misael, because these are the same names of the three holy children. At least their Hebrew names, right? The ones who were taken captive to Babylon with Daniel, and their names got changed to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, the reason that it's interesting is because if indeed this was them, then they would have had to have lived for quite a decent amount of time, and also they would probably be very old around this point in time. But like I said, it's just something that stood out. Not saying that this is them. This could have been any other individuals with those same names, but it's just interesting how all three of them, or all three of those three individuals with these three names, were together at this point in time with Esdras. So just wanted to call that out. Verse 45, then took Esdras the book of the law before the multitude, for he sat honorably in the first place in the sight of them all. And when he opened the law, they stood all straight up. So Esdras blessed the Lord, power most high, the God of hosts almighty. And all the people answered, Amen. And lifting up their hands, they fell to the ground and worshipped the Lord. Also Joshua, Annas, Sarabias, Adinus, Jacobus, Sabbatius, Altius, Maanias, and Calitus, Asrias, Joaz, Abdus, and Ananias, Baitus, the Levites, taught the law of the Lord, making them withal to understand it. So when as the laws was read, being the Levites, they had a good understanding of it, so they could explain it and teach it to the people, so they understood. Or when it says don't do this, this is what it means. When it says this is what it means. If this matter happens, this is how you would go about it. Then spake authorities unto Esdras the chief priest and reader, and to the Levites that taught the multitude, even to all, saying, This day is holy unto the Lord. For they all wept when they heard the law. Go then and eat the fat and drink the sweet, and send part to them that have nothing. Now, when he says eat the fat and drink the sweet, he's not telling the people to go and eat actual fat, and he's not saying go and drink like sugar, right? But eat the fat and drink the sweet is the fat and the sweet is just another way of saying, like, the good things, right? If you hear about the fat of the land or the fattest places, it's not like you go to a land and there's just like places that have fat just stacked on them, but those would be like the best, So it says here, for this day is holy unto the Lord. So they were what he was saying is, just rejoice, right? Eat, drink, feast. Why? As verse 52 says, for this day is holy unto the Lord, and be not sorrowful, for the Lord will bring you to honor. So the Levites published all things to the people, meaning they made it public, they made them to understand it, saying, this day is holy to the Lord, be not sorrowful. Then went they their way, everyone to eat and drink, and make merry, and to give part to them that had nothing, and to make great cheer, because they understood the words wherein they were instructed, and for the which they had been assembled. And that brings us to the end of the book of First Esdras. Okay, so Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kudash. And until next time, Shalom.